Hi guys, welcome back to The Big Shift. Today my special guest is Johnny Alite. Johnny Alite has a big profile, guys. You know, he's been on a lot of platforms from GQ to Trevor McDonald. There's been a lot of controversy around about John, about his story, about the authenticity of his story, you know, about the chronological aspects of his story. You know, I've interviewed John before. Today he's come back on the platform so we can objectively go over the story. Now, guys, he sent me a lot of not seen before footage, photos of of him back in the day with the Gotti family in the Bergen Hun Fish Club. A lot of exclusive stuff. I've seen the 302s. I've done a lot of research on this case. Coming next. Hi guys, thanks for joining us again on The Big Shift. We've got Johnny Alite today. We're going to go right the way through that story, guys. Before we get to that, let me say thank you to everyone coming on the platform, engaging at stephengillen.com and going into the content there. We really aim to inspire, and we're going to be releasing soon our business mastery series. A lot of you guys are asking for this. So what do we do? What do I do? We're going to make that a little bit more clearer. We build national, global brands. You know, our companies go from startup to 200 million plus, guys. So we're going to reveal some of that really good stuff to help and inspire you on your own journey. But now let's get into the content. My special guest today is Johnny Alite. John, thanks for coming on the platform.
Thank you, Stephen, for having me. I want to say hello to everybody, especially in the UK, so I'm over there a lot. I appreciate it.
Now, we're going to go into something else here as well. You know, we'll do a bit more of the backstory. Now, look, you know, I want to talk about some timings here. You know, Anthony Ruggiano. I've interviewed Anthony. You know, his father, Andy, he was very central in the Gambino family. Everyone knows that. This is a good indication of timings here. All right, well, things was happening, and you know, as I say, I've talked to Anthony. So, what was the dynamic around that time with you and that family regarding the Gambino family, and what was going on at that time before Fat Andy passed? Right, you know, later on, because he was central in the Gambino family. What can you tell us about that?
Fat Andy, again, was one of the most famous gangsters for people in the mob world. For the public, they don't know who he is because we kept a very quiet outlook on the mob in the old days. Nobody talked. There was no social media. There was no TV. That, you know, you were supposed to keep a low profile. Fat Andy was straightened out by Albert Anastasia, Murder Inc. He was kind of grandfather figure to me. I was around the Ruggiano family since I'm a little boy. I mean, literally a little boy, 7, 8 years old. I played baseball. I was in and out of the Ruggiano family house. They were my coaches. His father would be at all my games. I was in the boxing gym with the family at the Lost Battalion. They were always there. Albert was very, very good with his hands. Anthony would be there also. So, you know, I maintained a very close relationship with the Ruggiano family. And in my first book, Gotti's Rules, I talk about a guy trying to shoot me. And Albert Ruggiano and Andy Ruggiano took care of it. Anthony, I believe, was in jail at that time. They threw a guy off a roof was trying to shoot me as a young man. I was about 15. So the family not only was, you know, teaching me the life, and I was around the life as almost, you know, a family member in their house. They protected me, saved my life from a serious gangster that was, you know, an older guy at that time in his 30s somewhere trying to kill me. So, you know, it wasn't just by words. The neighborhood knew I was around the Ruggiano family.
So what do you say, John, to people? I mean, many people, they don't understand the life, you know, but, you know, so just ask specific questions. What do you say to the people who say, well, you was always an associate, you're not Italian, you know, you're never going to be a made guy, you're never going to be brought into the inner circle, as it were. How would you be party to know some of the things that you say that you know?
Because you got a guy like a movie like Tom Hayden from The Godfather. He was adopted by him. He wasn't Italian. He sat with the boss every day. That was my life. I was around Fat Andy Ruggiano, was like my grandfather. So obviously Anthony Ruggiano's speaking to you, and he tells you that's the truth. I'm around the guy since I'm a baby. I was in his house day and night. I was accepted by Gotti Sr. the same way, obviously, because I'm in every family picture. I'm picking him up from court, Gotti Sr. I'm sleeping in his house. I'm coming out of his house. So you look at guys like the Irish guys, the Westies. They're guys that work for our families, that meet directly with some of the top echelon bosses. You have Joe Watts, that was the right-hand man almost to Gotti Sr. on a constant basis, who's German. So, you know, for the people who don't understand, Jimmy Burke from Goodfellas, these are movies, but these are real guys that I stayed with Jimmy Burke's son. You know, when you're in the level we are, we do sit down, obviously, with these bosses. We're in their company. We're living in their houses. We are the commodity of their life because we're the shooters. So when you're a strong arm and a shooter, you're a commodity. But I had a different look because I grew up on the laps of these guys since I'm a baby. So when people talk, they just don't understand the mob, because nobody's going to tell a West that you're not a gangster or you don't talk to the boss. They would have killed them.
I mean, look, you know, even from the life that I understand, you know, of organized crime, the grooming of it all, the process of it all. Yes, it's a hierarchy. Yes, there's rules, of course. It's very secretive by its nature. But when you're growing up amongst these guys and you're in and out of the family, you know, you're with the family and all this stuff, people talk. People talk. You get to hear stuff and you get very close to people, you know, and you are a commodity. You are a commodity because you are being groomed. You are being groomed, you know, to be a commodity, John, you know, as you said, you know. So I have an experience of that myself, right? That's a fact. So at that time, now look, you know, there's also phone calls to Sammy Gravano at this time. We're going to play some of that because Sammy's asked some very pointed questions about you, John, right? Very specific questions like I'm asking, and he gives his answer. We're going to play some of this now, just an excerpt of this, go back, and then we're going to play some more.
Can I talk to Mr. Gravano?
Sorry for me taking time.
Okay, hi, this is Andy Deliana. We spoke a couple of weeks ago, or a few months ago, through John Alite. I don't know if you remember. Yes? Okay, I'm a film director, and we're working on a few projects.
You want to go further? So this.
A series probably that are called The Perfect Gangster. I don't know if you're aware of that. Yeah?
Fucking lady.
Okay. We already done 2 episodes, and there are more to come. And we started with John Alite and few others. The goal of the project is to meet gangsters and to find what could be the main features of a gangster, what life on the street means to them, and at the heart of their life, what is the biggest of the struggle and their achievements. What makes them the perfect gangster? This is the main quest. All around that is also stories about the mob in general and Italian mafia in general, without being specific about one character or another. It's depending more on what they want to show, what they want to expose, that they think is relevant for their life, their own quest. So I just did an introduction, a little bit of what the show is about, the documentary is about, and I wanted to talk to you as well because I find you extremely interesting as a character, as a person, as what you've done. I know very well, I mean, what the media already talked about it, stories of the past. I would love to see a little bit where you're standing now, and a few questions about John Alite as well, if that's okay with you. All right, okay. How do you feel now that you are out and you're back in life? How do you feel?
I feel good.
All right.
I just did 17.5 years in prison.
Okay.
And getting out, I mean, I feel pretty good.
Okay.
I was in contact with my friend Alite, who was in the Gambino family. Very powerful member of the Gambino family. He's my Albanian mafioso soulmate.
Okay.
I think the world of him. I mean, he's a legitimate tough guy. I think he was put under the wrong people at the time when he was in the Gambino family. I wish he was part of my crew, but that didn't happen. So right now, I mean, I feel pretty good. I'm just working on a few things myself.
Great.
And I'm adjusting back into society after that long of a period of time in prison.
Do you feel that you have the most important features of a true gangster?
The most important features of a good gangster?
Yes. Or true?
Important features is loyalty, honesty. You have to have those things. If you betray your friends, they betray you. And that happens over and over again. It happened to me. It happened to Johnny Alite. And once that happens, everything falls apart. Once you lose the honesty and the loyalty, why should anybody else keep it? So those are important things when you take your oath coming into the mafia. Those are very, very important. And you have to live that every day of your life.
So he's asked, Sammy's asked some really simple questions about you, John. We've just heard what he's saying there about you. Now, he was the underboss at that time to John Sr. So he was obviously, you know, we know the story. It's a very iconic, famous story in the New York mob. So what did you say about the dynamic? Did you know Sammy then at this time? Obviously, he must have knew you. I mean, we've just heard him say that.
Yeah, I knew Sammy. I didn't get, you know, in the mob world, you don't get intimate with guys unless you're doing business, direct business with them. Whether it's you're going to do a hit with them, you're going to take an order about hurting somebody. So my guy was directly John Gotti. I lived in his house. I slept there. You know, I'm with his son day and night. He put me, Bobby Borriello, with him day and night because we were violent guys. We were known on the street, and it elevated Junior as a serious guy in the street world. John was very keen and savvy on the street, meaning Gotti, the father. And he understood this, and he understood the loyalty of me growing up around the family in their house, that I would take it to another level for him. When you have outsiders, they betray you. No different than Paul Castellano got betrayed. Because when you don't have your personal guys and your personal family members involved, you always have that betrayal of someone trying to kill you out of trying to step up into those positions. So, you know, for somebody to say, Johnny Alite, who were you? Johnny Alite, in the era of no photos and videos, I'm with that family. I'm in his daughter Vicky's wedding in 1984. Like I said, I'm part of the wedding party. If I'm a nobody and I'm committing this violence, I wouldn't be in their wedding parties. I wouldn't be in their house. I wouldn't be in the Ravenite. I wouldn't be in the Bergen. I wouldn't be in the Ravenite, especially because it's only made members. So when Sammy Gravano is speaking about me, he's speaking out of knowledge that I'm John Gotti's guy. John Gotti never wanted me to be close to Sammy. There's a reason behind that, because this world's treachery. And he wanted to know that I'd pull that trigger if he ever needed me to his underboss. And this is just our world. It's such treachery. Everybody's killing everybody. When the time comes, a guy's expendable.
And you believe, you know, by that time that you would have thought that John, you know, because he was asking you, you know, you're saying that John at that time, you as hitman enforcer, and he may have asked you, as he may have asked you, you know, for other guys, maybe to hit Sammy Gravano. Is that what you're saying?
100%. As a young man, when he first started telling me, I don't want you getting close to certain guys, I didn't understand. I'm green. They're grooming me. As I do learn, I understand that means he doesn't trust him as fully as everybody thinks he trusts him. I says he might use him as his underboss and he puts him out front. but he's not his brother Richie or Pete or anybody else, even though they might not have the capabilities in the mob world that Sammy may have. But the trust value in him, obviously John's always worried about, will this guy shoot me in the head like Paul Castellano ended up dead, or Angelo Bruno in Philly ended up dead, or a million other, or Albert Anastasia ended dead, because they all die by the hands of betrayal. And John, again, Gotti may have some faults, but he was a very, very smart street guy, and he understood this.
There's some photos in there of Stevie Borello, some other photos in there that you've mentioned, John, and videos. I want to go forward a little bit to some other points here. So I'm trying to get the timelines in here really, really clear. I mean, in 1997, you was away, and you was Genie Gotti's cellmate. Right?
I was in 1997. I was Genie Gotti's.
1997. I've got this down here. Tell us about this, because this is years later, right? So this is it. So Genie Gotti, 1997. Tell us about that.
I was in prison in Fairton, and the Gambino family asked me. There was a guy there, Bobby Brooksy. Jackie D'Norcio was there also. He's part of the Jersey crew. And they were having problems with a guy, Louis Oricchio. You know, I'd like to say my condolences. He just passed away. And he killed John DiGilio, who was a captain at the time on the waterfront. And he was having problems with these guys in Fairton. It was a medium facility, FCI. I walked into the joint. I got messages from the street from the Gambino family. They needed me to hurt him. So I hurt Louis Oricchio in prison. They shipped me into solitary confinement, shipped me out to another jail. Obviously, they separate us after that, you know, that assault. And I ended up in McKean prison with some very famous gangsters there. Persico was there, Carmine Persico, the boss of the Colombo family, his brother Teddy. There was another guy, Patty Della Russo, that I grew up with since we were kids. He was involved in those days with the Lucchese family. And Genie Gotti, Joe Gambino, who obviously are from my family. And when I come into the facility, I happened to be in Genie Gotti and Joe Gambino's unit. And Genie Gotti asked me to sell with him. Naturally, he knew me since I'm a kid, and I sold with Genie Gotti. Later on, we had some issues. But at the time, I sold with Genie Gotti. Yeah.
Okay, John. So what do you say to people who say to you, oh, you was discredited as a witness and all this stuff? What do you say to them people, John?
Well, people need to read the Forbes article, because Gotti Jr.'s lawyer, Gotti's Jr.'s lawyer, John Mariglio, who's a very famous attorney that handles all the bosses in New York. He's one of the top attorneys in the country. He says to Forbes, our whole defense was Johnny Alite was a maniac, a nut, half a serial killer, and that he was way too dangerous for John Gotti Jr. to control, that only Gotti Sr. could control him. So the jurors felt that they didn't understand the hierarchy of the mob. They didn't understand, yes, John Gotti Sr. is controlling me, but through John Gotti Jr. He passes him his messages. I'm with his crew, and it's for John Gotti Jr. So the jury just felt, and John, the lawyer, said, the jury just felt I was way too dangerous for John Gotti Jr., who wasn't dangerous at all. That's his lawyer's statements, not mine. And if anybody gets the paperwork on the case, they blame all the murders on me and John Gotti Sr., the Louis DeBono murder, who I had pled out guilty to, and John Gotti got convicted senior of. So all the murders were blamed on us too, not on his son.
So what do you say about, you know, people who say about the feds discredited some of the stuff? I mean, we all know the games that go on here, John, but I have to ask you this question simply. What do you say to people who say about, oh, well, the feds said you wasn't a reliable witness? What do you say about that? What's going on with that?
Well, again, that's ridiculous. If you look at the jury pool on conviction, on just some of the things I said, he was convicted of 10-2. So, and if you listen to the prosecutors, the attorney generals, and the FBI agents in the Forbes article, which they're all interviewed, they concur that I'm very accurate on how many people I say I shot or hurt or what I had to say. And my narrative is, they say I have an unbelievable memory. So, you know, I really don't care if people think I'm a good witness or not. I'm not there to be a good witness. I'm not there to be an actor. I'm there to just give facts. And if you look at the jury pool where they convict Junior, It was very hard to convict him because he had great attorneys, and because he was on trial 3 times prior to that, and because he was a cooperating witness. So there was a lot of information they couldn't allow in because he had a deal during some of that stuff when he was a cooperator. The FBI did not call him in. Him and his lawyers asked to meet them to cooperate. There's a big difference here. And some of the information he gave wasn't allowed to be divulged because of his cooperation. So some of this takes into fact, and also, you know, I'm not here to grade the prosecutors, how good they were or bad they were, or their other witnesses. So to me, I gave facts. I think it was, you know, the Forbes article goes through it, check by check, and, you know, people can say what they want. You know, that doesn't bother me.
Jimmy Calandra. Now, there's been stuff out there about Jimmy, and he's calling you out, some, you know, M&A format, fight, and all this junk. What is this about?
This guy's a low-level drug guy, and I don't even like talking about him because the Gottis do this always. They get somebody they find to troll and go up front for them so they don't have to talk. So I'm not going to waste my energy. I wasted it on 1 or 2 shows. They were taped. So somebody said, why do you keep talking about it? I'm not talking about it. I will never mention him again. Like right now, I don't want to mention him. It doesn't matter to me. He wasn't involved with me and the Gottis. He wasn't involved in Abu Ghada. He did rat and put away 2 guys, Reynolds for life and Fabrizio. And I guess if he was a cooperating witness and he wants to change his life, he wouldn't be talking the way he does. And I guess he's going to have to worry about dealing with them because they're going to be home in a couple of years. As far as anybody else, my fight is with Gotti, and it's going to stay there. Nobody's going to put anybody else in front. And I'm going to handle Gotti whatever which way we have to do it, whether it's as gentlemen and shake hands, whether it's going to continue with this nonsense, or whether it's in a ring. But it's going to be Gotti, and no one's going to distract me from going where my issue is. My issue are with the Gotti family, and that's never going to change, and nobody's going to distract me from it. I'm a pretty intelligent guy. I'm not going to get sidetracked somewhere else.
Now, John, there's a lot of names here, you know, that fly about, obviously, right? You know, so, you know, I'm just going to narrow it down to some more to try and get a bit more clarity for the viewers. Now, you know, you've sent me over some of the government exhibits, for instance. You know, there'll be some of them here for the audience to have a look at, some corroborating stuff. They're entitled to their own opinion, right? This is a very objective interview. Frankie DeCiso, was he a friend of yours? Now, he was the original underboss before Sammy. You know, I mean, he lost his life. He was blown up in a car bomb, right, I believe, right? So what was the connection with you 2 guys?
Frankie DeCico is at the Ravenite video I gave you. I was very friendly with the DeCico family, with Georgie DeCico, his brother, and Butter, which his real name is Joey DeCico. Their nephews were Frankie, I don't want to say his last name, who was also a made guy, ran the unions, who me and him were best friends and still are best friends. These are guys that you'll see in those Ravenite videos with me, kissing me hello and playing around with me. So, you know, talking. And the family is, you know, certain members of the family are still very friendly with me. So, you know, when people talk about these guys, these are personal friends. Some of them passed away, obviously, since. But like I said, their nephew is one of my best friends and still my best friend. And he just doesn't get involved in this nonsense. He thinks it's nonsense.
Make sure to subscribe, like, go into StephenGillen.com and sign up for more wonderful content to expedite, help, and support you on your own personal journey of success.